Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily. I work at Virtual here, and welcome to the Wanda Investor Q&A today. Thank you so much for coming. I'd like to start off today's session by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting today, and also pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I'd love to start the session off today by introducing the wonderful Cassandra from Wanda. So, as I'm sure you're aware, if you're here today, Wanda are looking to raise equity capital to expand their network of Wanda Pods across Australia and soon the world. Welcome, Cass.
Thanks so much, Em. And hi, and thank you very much for joining us. We've had an absolutely overwhelming response so far to the campaign. I think we're nearly up to 1,000 DOIs from a really broad range of people, right from our very first guests that ever stayed with us, through to some of our suppliers, and all the way through to some wholesale investors. So first and foremost, thank you. Before we start, I want to take the opportunity to introduce you to some of our team who are also here to directly answer your questions. We've got Ryan, who is our amazing CFO. We've got Damien, who is our commercial director in charge of revenue management and operations. And then, of course, we've got Tony, who's our marketing director and in charge of bringing this beautiful brand into the world. There are a few key things that we want to take you through today. The first half is a presentation from us, and it's a crash course in Wanda. And then if we haven't answered any of your burning questions, we'll open it up for questions and you can ask the team and myself directly. So what we want to take you through is inviting you into our story and our vision. We want to explain, what we've achieved to date and where we've come from. Of course, you're going to want to know how this works, where we're going and what our plans are, why now and what's the opportunity, and probably the most important question, what's in it for you as an investor. So the photos that you see here are really early days of Wanda when we were building our first site during COVID. We were trying to project manage via video as we were based in Sydney and couldn't get to site. So it was an interesting time, and looking back on it, some of our best memories. But to explain where Wanda started, I really need to take you back further. My background is in hotel interior design, and for 10 years prior to Wanda, I was working with other design firms, hotel operators, and had a previous company working directly with developers. And it was during that time that I thought, something's missing. We were frustrated at the industry's lack of commitment to aim for sustainable, low-scale development. We were frustrated at the lack of commitment to giving back to and contributing to regional economies in a meaningful way. And we found that all too often there was a really transactional approach to high volume hospitality and tourism. So, it basically came down to a bit of a pizza and wine night, and we thought, let's do our own hotel. And we thought at the time, where do we put this hotel? There's so many great places around Australia where this would work. How are we going to pay for it? Obviously, hotels are very capital intensive. And most importantly, how are we going to be different? And then we thought, well, there's plenty of people around Australia with spectacular land. Let's lease the land, and that can be our first contribution back to regional economies. Let's stick with our design expertise of creating a great room and placing these rooms all around the country, creating this network. It's almost like an exploded hotel. And then, wouldn't it be cool if you could travel around the country with a consistent and quality brand, but your landscape is changing, and the local businesses that support that guest experience are changing and are based on the regions that you're traveling to. So that's when Wanda was born. And I know I flicked through these slides pretty easily, but in reality, there were many, many months and many late nights between these slides where, where we came from to where we, started to crystallize where we wanted to go. But our vision for Wanda is to become a brand that does three things. We want to redefine how we travel. And that is by transforming our relationship to the things that matter the most. It's our relationship with the planet, with our communities, and with ourselves. So for us, I mean, it's not about traveling to tick boxes or to get the Instagram shots. It's about transforming how we connect to these things that deeply nourish us. And it's more than a weekend away. You know, what is our relationship with the land and each other? How can we live more sustainably, not only in a green way, but also in a way that's better for our health? You know, learning to slow down. Secondly, we want to become the #1 network of sustainable luxury nature-based accommodation. And with the help from this raise, we want to accelerate our position as the leader in this space within the most scenic places around the country. So what we're offering at Wanda is a new luxury. It's the luxury of time, of space, and of stillness, which I believe are some of our rarest commodities. The new consumers of tomorrow are not going to expect luxury to represent their status through excess and indulgence. Their status is going to be based on how they act as a guardian of craftsmanship, of provenance, being an ESG champion, and by leading with a cultural compass. And that's what we want to capture. Thirdly, we want to provide an investment opportunity with compelling economics that surpass traditional accommodation. We want to make sure that we're scaling in an economically sustainable way. We believe that we've already proven some of these compelling metrics and will only become more efficient as we grow. What really kicked us off was that we received a grant from the Queensland government in partnership with our landowner. For a bit of background on the grant, the grant pool was only $25 million, and the total value of the projects submitted was over $500 million. So it was a highly competitive grant, but we were lucky enough to be a chosen or selected operator for this particular project, and that funded the first 5 pods. Since then, we're focused on 3 key things. We wanted to establish product market fit. Not only in our first location, we wanted to prove that we could operate this in multiple locations in multiple states, and that's what we've done. We wanted to prove the economics, and of course, we wanted to build the team and the foundations for scale. So since then, we've also received a few great accolades along the way. We were nominated as one of the top 20 sustainability storytellers from Tourism Australia. We were voted #1 best innovator and disruptor for short-term rentals by International Hospitality Media. And more recently, we were included in Time Magazine's 50 greatest places in the world. So given that we've been able to build this brand with limited resources so far, we're pretty proud that we've been able to be recognized by some of these leading industry players. So with this proven model, we now want to raise the money to scale, and this is where the crowdfund comes into it. So far, we've commercialized 2 locations. Our first being in the Scenic Rim in Queensland. So if you're unfamiliar, it's about an hour and a half from Brisbane Gold Coast airports. As I mentioned, it was funded by the grant and launched in December of 2021. Our second location is on Kangaroo Island, roughly 4 hours from Adelaide, also funded partly by a grant, a state grant, which launched in December 2022. Both are with private landowners, and in both of these locations, we've partnered with local food producers, winemakers, and nature-based tourism operators to round out that guest experience. Damien will talk a little bit more about the performance metrics, but part of the benefit of having the network of sites is that we can take advantage of these counter-cyclical seasons. So, for example, Kangaroo Island, high season is in the summer. Scenic Rim, high season is in the winter, and the revenue remains reasonably level throughout the year. This will only become more robust as we add new sites. We select sites with a very stringent analysis process. Whilst our priority is definitely to grow the portfolio, we don't want to do this at the expense of site quality. We've built a pipeline of with a 12 to 24 month outlook, and we're constantly looking at new sites in these key locations all the time, with the local relationships we've built in the states and regions. At any one point, we're looking at 20 different sites. Of course, not all of them come off. We're very picky about our sites. We're in it for the long haul. We have both a short and long-term pipeline, and both strategic and opportunistic about our sites, and we'll prioritise the low-hanging fruit opportunities in terms of speed to market. Our site selection criteria consists of over 30 different metrics that we analyse, so I won't take you through them all. That's part of our secret sauce, but the key criteria is that it must be naturally spectacular and showcase the uniqueness of the region. In essence, I need to be able to convince someone from Brisbane to leave the beautiful beaches of Queensland, because the beach at Middle River Kangaroo Island is just that special, and it really is. The region needs to be on its own growth trajectory with proven demand and an aligned tourism strategy. And of course, we have to be able to operate it. So there needs to be a basic level of amenity, human resources, and quality local businesses around to support it. We engage with these businesses early so that they're on the project journey with us. So this is a big one. So I know that you're keen to understand how we do this. So I'll go through a few key points here, but we're creating a national network of modular, design-led, eco-aware wonder pods in breathtaking nature-based locations. We're sourcing premium sites in high-demand regional destinations, establishing long-term leases, land leases with a revenue share model, and remotely managing the operations. The WonderPod design and trademark name are our IP. We have over 20 architecturally crafted designs developed to brand standards for fast execution. The pod that you see on the slide now is our 1-bedroom pod, but we also have studios, 2 bedrooms, accessible pods. So we have created this suite of inventory that we can place depending on what the site needs. The pods are light earth touch. This means they're built in a factory, shipped to site and installed with piers. So they're elevated off the ground. And in the picture there, you can see little black dots in the background. They're the piers, so it is sitting above the earth. And whilst it's not our intention to move, if we did have to relocate the pods at the end of the lease, they've been engineered so we can pick them up, repurpose them, sell them on, or relocate them to another Wonder site, extend that asset lifespan, and the original land can regenerate, leaving nothing behind. Whilst we're still in early stage, we are securing national supply partnerships with preferred pricing so we can get the economies of scale as we grow. They're off-grid, meaning they're powered by solar, rainwater harvesting, and have an advanced grey and black water treatment on site. They're also fully self-contained. So flushing toilets, streaking beds, walk-in showers, fireplaces and kitchens. So we've designed these pods to encourage a luxury extended stay. You can easily live there for a week and be very comfortable. I've lived there for many weeks on end, so I'd be happy to live in a pod. I know some of the questions have come up in previous to this webinar about development approvals, and the answer is yes. The pods require approval, and as frustrating as approvals may be, we believe it's the right thing to do to go through these proper processes, making sure we have strong relationships with local government and acting in the best interest of the community. But because these pods are prefab, we can start the manufacturing process before the final approvals are received, getting us into market as fast as possible. And we look to prioritise the sites that allows this speed to market. What we've also seen so far, though, is that the progressive councils often encourage this kind of development because we're bringing in the right kind of visitation to the region. In terms of our sustainability credentials, and I know I'm not allowed to be too speculative talking about the future, but we are on our way and have started the process of becoming B Corp certified. It is a long process. all the materials and inclusions in our supply chain undergo an analysis process based on whether it has its own industry standard or green certification, whether it's made locally, whether it's recyclable or renewable, and of course, if it's got to be fit for purpose to ensure durability. We've received over 150 grand in R&D grants around this process and have made it a core part of our design development going forward, with research into the latest construction technologies and materials. As a part of our, I guess, broader reach outside of the business, we've partnered with Bush Heritage Australia, where $10 from every booking goes towards protecting the land we love. I'll flick it over to Tony.
All right, thank you so much, Cass. Since opening in the Scenic Rim, we've connected more than 5,000 travelers to nature. We call them wanderers, and I'm going to tell you just a little bit about them. Broadly speaking, they're domestic travelers from major Australian cities, and they span a range of ages. They usually stay between 2 and 3 nights, and they spend about 4 times more in location than the typical domestic regional traveler. As Cass mentioned, wanderers don't come to us expecting room service. They come looking for time, for space, and for stillness. They want to experience a deep immersion in nature, but they don't necessarily want to give up on quality or comfort. They're conscious of their impact on the planet, they feel strongly about purpose-led operators, and they want to intimately experience the local story. We have systems in place that help us capture and review guest feedback so that we can have a constant process of improvement. Through some of that different feedback, we've seen a couple of the things you see on your screen now. We know that wanderers generally stay with us for one of 3 primary reasons: to slow down, to rejuvenate, kind of escape the pain of daily life, to celebrate a life milestone, an achievement, some goal that they're happy about, or to reconnect with loved ones, with partners, with family members. In terms of what they value, the destination view are usually cited as one of the best parts of the stay. And I guess with those glass curtain walls, how could you not really focus on the view? They cite design and high quality of the WanderPod 60% of the time, and just under half value the privacy and the peacefulness that we offer. I think really those results kind of speak for themselves when you look at our satisfaction ratings, and that 80% of wanderers rate their stay a 9 or a 10. With that, Cass, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thanks, Tony. Damien?
Thanks, Cass. Thanks, Tony. So yeah, I've just got some metrics that we've experienced in our very short time of opening so far. So these are all still on the upward trajectory. We're still growing, but we're very, very happy with some of the results that we've seen so far. So we've got an average daily rate just under $600, $568. And if you compare that to the average luxury and upscale traditional hotels across the country, they come in with an average rate of $247. So we're very happy to see where we sit in comparison to the traditional hotels. Our occupancy to date since opening has been running at 58% on average. And traditionally in regional Australia, the market's running at about 62% for properties that have been in the market a long time. When you consider we're a new brand, we're offering a new product, we're in upcoming locations, running at 58% versus 62. We think we're onto something good and we're going really well. If we consider we're looking at our average booking value of just over $1,400, we know this is not a small buying decision for our customers. And so we're always looking for opportunities to reduce friction in the buying process, and always looking to increase that average booking value. An example of the strategy to increase that average booking value is by offering a payment plan, so the guests can pay off their stay prior to them arriving, and it gives them that opportunity to purchase that little bit extra because they may not be able to afford it at the time of booking, but have the opportunity to pay that off prior to arrival. Our average length of stay is sitting at 2.48 nights. So that's, it's not just a weekend away, as Cass said. It's really getting out and experiencing the local community. That's also beneficial fiscally for us. The longer a guest stays, the more of that can contribute to the bottom line. So there's a benefit both ways, both in guest satisfaction and increasing that number, and also the operations of the properties. Overall, we get 90% of our sales as direct sales. So that's either through the website or phone calls. And so we're not paying commissions out to the big online travel agents. We're able to own that relationship with the customer. We're able to communicate directly with them, and we're able to kind of encourage them to come back and spend more time with us. We're very excited to see of that 90%, guests are starting to come back on their second and third stays now. And we're also starting to see them, they've stayed in Scenic Rim and now they're visiting Kangaroo Island, or even vice versa. Over to you, Cass.
Cool. Thanks, Damien. I will handball it back to Ryan.
Thank you very much, Cass. Well, as you guys have seen, it's only been a few short years for Wander, but it has experienced some pretty significant revenue growth year on year. If we look back over the last 3 years, coming from humble beginnings, it's generated over $500,000 in revenue last year and the year prior, and then FY23 just closed was 1.25 million. So revenue growth is really, really strong, and those that can appreciate it, because there is accommodation that that's been invested in, we expect that to recur each year, and especially with improvements from Damien and the team in increasing that utilisation rate and the average rate per night, then obviously there's opportunity to continue growing that. The addition of new sites is obviously really important in that revenue growth, and introducing capital now to bring in those new sites, we'll continue to see that grow. I know that Cass is intending on applying for the AFR Fast Data, because that growth is quite significant as well. As you can see, there's really strong gross profit, and that's also increasing year on year. I think that's a testament to the fact that Wander is owning all those operations, and like Damien said, we're not taking bookings from third parties. We're really owning all the operations of the business, and that's showing in the gross profit at the moment. And there's a few other exceptional stats here, like the fact that the business was cash flow positive and it's already breaking even after a couple of years. And obviously in the current environment for raising capital and just from a business perspective, I think that's really exceptional that we're in that position. And it really means that the capital raise right now is really centered around funding growth, not funding capital burn. We think that this is a really great foundation to add funds into, to be able to really push forward from. That way the investment will go into growth-centric activities, and that will help us to continue to grow a number of these different metrics. One thing that's important is the cash flow, the fact that it's positive, and if you sort of put to the side for a moment that the actual sites themselves are capital heavy, and that's what we'll raise capital for. Outside of that, it's actually very efficient. Damien said that there are people that will use those payment arrangement plans, but that's relatively infrequent. With people paying for their accommodation in advance, we're able to leverage that cash and be really efficient as well. And we've found out ways to do this in a way that without having to enter into larger contracts or to give away too much share at this stage here. So the actual cash conversion cycle is actually in our favour. Those are some of the highlights about where we are right now, which I think is in a really interesting place to add new investors and new capital to really move forward from here.
Thanks, Ryan.
So the big question, why now? There's actually a confluence of metrics that indicate to us the time is right for mobilization. The first one, according to Austrade, the domestic overnight regional travel market is set to reach $68 billion by 2030. If you look at that growth from the end of 24, in 6 years, that's about 40%. I don't know if anybody saw Cass on Sunday News on Channel 9, but we also see a massive unmet demand, with 1 of every 3 travelers to key regional destinations looking for premium accommodation. That's 3 times more than what's currently available, let alone what will be required as that market continues to grow. And then when we look at growth metrics in our 3 key segments, we see really positive numbers there too. According to Booking.com and their sustainable travel report, 74% of global travelers want companies to offer more sustainable travel choices. and 76% want to travel more sustainably in the coming year. In terms of wellness, the past 5 years has seen regional wellness overnight visitation increase by 10.8% per annum. And then luxury travel, that's the strongest in terms of overnight domestic travel, and it's increasing an average of 14.4% per annum. So all those things together really indicate to us that the moment is now.
And so why are we different? We believe that Wander is really solving three key problems that exist in the accommodation industry today. We're offering an experience for guests to be fully immersed in nature without the trade-off of quality, comfort, or sustainability. We're providing a fast-to-market real estate investment solution for the regional overnight sector that costs up to 25% less than a traditional build. And so for context, a luxury hotel room that's achieving the same rates may cost up to 600 grand per key to build. We're just building the high value part of a hotel, which is the room. Normally they have to pay to build lobbies. In our case, the lobby is the bush. They're paying for gyms and pools. We're going to be recommending an amazing bushwalk and going for a swim in the ocean. They're paying to build restaurants, but we're partnering with other local businesses so you get that produce straight from the source. And in that way, we're contributing to these healthy, livable communities. And the modelling shows that our current locations generate approximately $2.6 million per year of regional economic value to locals. So I hope this graph explains fairly clearly where we sit. But what we're doing is taking the best things from existing products and providing a new solution. So hotels, and I apologize, I think I have some hotel friends on this call, but they can be monotonous. But what they do right is that they have a consistent value proposition to guests. They've got brand recognition and value, and they have a standardization and fit for purpose build. On the other hand, you've got Airbnbs, and I'm sure we've all probably stayed in good ones. We've probably stayed in bad ones. So it's a lucky dip in terms of what you're buying. What they do right, though, is that they've got a low service, high margin model. They've got unique locations, not normally accessible, and it's a self-led guest experience. Tiny homes, which is a newer emerging category compared to the other two here, they offer an off-grid experience. They're transportable and a repurposable asset, and they're cheaper than a traditional build. But what Wander is doing is taking the best parts of all these three existing categories and creating a new high-value opportunity. So why are we racing? We have a proven model, and now we're looking to scale. Our main objective and use of funds is to expand the portfolio. So put really simply, the more capital we raise, the more pods we can build. So the more people can connect to our vision, transforming our relationship with our planet, our communities, and ourselves. Based on the current and early stage metrics, each pod we commercialize brings in around 110 grand of additional revenue per year, or over $500,000 per year if we build an average of 5 pods in any particular location, which has a pod payback period of roughly 5 years based on gross profit after occupancy costs. Secondly, we want to roll out strategies to increase guest lifetime value, using existing inventory and encouraging our guests to basically stay and play longer, effectively giving the guest more value and improving our margins even further. For example, now that we have some significant live data from guests that have stayed with us, we're using that feedback to guide specific strategies to market segments based on the reason they've come, delivering a more personalized offering to encourage them to return. Thirdly, since launching, we have seen firsthand the demand for these pods in other applications. In nearly every region we've spoken to, there's a lack of regional worker accommodation, and we want to tap into this opportunity by initiating a direct pod sales strategy, diversifying revenue and leveraging our existing IP, processes, supply chains, relationships teams, once again contributing to these healthy and livable communities. the best part, what's in it for you as an investor? I know it's a really common question on these webinars, why have we chosen to do a crowd fund? I believe Wanda, in essence, is all about community and creating a movement. It's about building a brand for Wanderers by Wanderers, and really having the people who believe in the brand and the vision the most being its greatest beneficiaries of its success. So you're coming in at the top level of Wanda. You will own the new assets, you'll own the brand, and as part of the virtual process, there'll be investor rewards. The details of those rewards will be more outlined in the live offer, but they're going to include things like getting first access to new sites, the opportunity to vote and influence on future projects, and free nights so you can enjoy firsthand what you now own. So I hope I've covered all the burning questions, but as I said, here to answer any other questions you may have, and either myself or the team will help out.
Thank you guys so much. That was so interesting and such a great insight into what is really an incredible business. So really, really appreciate it. I've had a few questions come through already. Thank you everybody for popping those in. And if you've got any, please pop them into the Q&A box. So I've had an audience member ask if you're looking to buy properties, or is it just placing the Wonder Pod in areas? What is your view on that?
At this stage, we're looking to lease land. The long-term outlook is, we may be able to buy land one day, but given the size and scale of our business at the moment and the capital required to build the pods in the first place, it's not part of the short-term strategy. Not to say that we wouldn't look to buy land in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely, fair enough. And I know that you mentioned that you were looking to sell the pods alone so that people could buy those and put them on their own locations. Would you be looking into creating economy versions of your units so that people could buy them, for example, for a granny flat?
Yes, so two parts to that answer, I guess. Yes, like I said, we design these pods, so we've partnered with other manufacturers around the country, but we're in control of that pod. So if there's an opportunity to create a lower spec, there's no problem in doing that. In saying that, the opportunities that we see in terms of direct pod sales strategy, we'd be looking at opportunities that complement what we're already doing. So regional worker accommodation, where those projects have a level of scale about them. I think doing direct pod sales strategies, just one pod to a sort of a retail market, is probably not where we're going to head. It's more on the commercial side.
Okay, no problem. And how many pods are generally on each site?
Generally, the two that we have at the moment, there's 5 in Scenic Rim, and there's 4 on Kangaroo Island. And to be able to have that level of basic scale so that it's worth marketing, it's worth someone having a job there to in terms of housekeeping and maintenance, anywhere between 3 and 8 is the sort of level of scale that we need on any one site. And it's really important for us that we're not here to create little villages. It's all about maintaining that high quality guest experience and protecting the land. So we look at it site by site basis, but it needs to be economically viable.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there currently provision for charging electric vehicles at the sites or for extra battery capacity?
At this stage, so the Scenic Rim, the 2 locations that we have at the moment, there aren't, but we have seen the demand for it. So as we go forward, we will be looking into that and having that amenity at our future pods.
Great. And what proportion of your visitors book again? And what are the maintenance costs for the business? Cleaning, updating furniture, linen, anything like that?
I'll let Damien answer the second part of that question. I think our return visitation rate is just under, I think it's about around 6 or 7% of the reason people are booking at the moment, which is great considering how, we've got fairly limited inventory at the moment. The second part of that question, I'll transfer over to Damien.
I'll be honest, I don't have that number in front of me, but
Oh.
I will say
that didn't work.
I will say that we operate quite efficiently. The way that we work with our local housekeeping teams. So, we've got employees, we've got contractors, we've got a number of different ways that we work with them. And we have ongoing relationships with maintenance, with local maintenance teams. In terms of capital refurbishment, we do have budget allowances in our budgets moving forward, so that we're putting a reserve aside, so that once we get to that point where they do need a refresh, where they do need work or new capital expenditure, then we've got those reserves sitting there ready to go.
Amazing. How are the maintenance concerns addressed given the remote and decentralized nature of the pods? Is it what you were referring to before, Cass, that you do have a bit of a community around those pods that service them?
Absolutely. So the way the operations side is structured is that we've got our team at Wander HQ, and which oversees all the properties, but at each individual site we have a site manager, and they don't necessarily live on site, and as a guest you don't see them. They're not there to check you in or anything, but they live locally. And so they're there to basically oversee the property. They're our eyes and ears on the ground. If they can't handle the general maintenance, then we've got the ecosystem of other experts, whether it be plumbers, electricians, whatnot, to draw on directly.
Great. So kind of a segue to that, do you offer catering to guests? Is that a localized thing as well?
Food catering?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So again, we partner in the two instances that we have, and this has become part of our site selection process going forward, because we've seen the success and the demand for it in our current locations, is that we partner with these local producers. So I like to see it as, we do the beds, we're good at beds, that's it. Other people are good at food. So let's partner with them, so we're drawing that community, or the other local businesses, to help provide that in a locally, contextual way.
Amazing. Do the pods have any shared facilities such as kitchen, barbecue, fire pits, hot tubs, or is it all self-contained?
It's all self-contained. In saying that, we've designed it that way because of the feedback that we've been getting from previous guests, is that they really love and appreciate and value paying for that privacy. So it's not to say that we can't in future projects look at offering a communal space, but it's not really something that we push, or it's required for us to be to become a Wander site.
Great. What are your terms with the landowner? How long are your leases, generally speaking, and how does that work?
Sure. So we look at each individual site on a site-by-site basis, site-by-site basis, and that is because we want to make sure that it's viable for both of us. That will depend on how many pods we can put on the land, the demand for the region, what rates we think we can get. So there's a whole bunch of things that go into it. But in saying that, we're looking for 10 plus years in terms of our lease. We'll look for longer if we can get it. In the case of Kangaroo Island, we have a 99-year lease. So it just really depends on the individual negotiation with the landowner.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You really want to go long term if you're creating something so sustainable. Exactly.
I mean, we're in it for the long haul. The pods are movable, but we don't want to move them.
Understandable. So in terms of your competitive set, so companies like Unyoked, for example, also lease land and have a relatively large footprint. How do you compete for land in these cases?
Part of our secret sauce, I guess. So I'll talk a limited way about it. But we have taken the time to build really strong relationships with key people in the regions and the states. So it's our first way into finding some of the best land. Like I said, we have opportunistic land opportunities in our pipeline. So it's an inbound marketing strategy and also more of a strategic one. So it's basically get out a map of Australia. Where do we want to go? Where's the growth happening already, and where's the demand happening? And then we look to find a way in there. I think it's the way that those local authorities look at our product too. Is it's a very different value proposition and guest profile between the Unyokes and Wanders. So it's you can see just even from the growth projections of the space that Tony spoke to. There's room for more.
Brilliant. So currently, is the business breaking even on its own revenue, or is this including grants and capital raising?
Ryan, do you want to speak to that one, or I can speak?
No, it's excluding. I think that things like the R&D tax incentive have helped improve overall profitability, but no, without them, we would still be above break even overall. These things have become intrinsically helpful, and we're importantly maximising any available grant or eligibility around those things. But right now we're breaking even without those. We'll continue to look for those, but I think the next push on capital will go into growth activities exclusively.
Great. To that point, what grants have you guys leveraged so far, and what's the opportunity for grants in the future? Do you have a bit of a process around this, and how reliable would you say it is?
Definitely always an all cap grant. It's a great opportunity for us, and the states in particular. They're pushing for this kind of tourism and visitation. So generally there's grants coming up all the time, and where it makes sense for us, where we've got a project that aligns, we will go for it. In saying that, it's opportunistic, and we're not relying on it if we can't rely on it. So it's a bonus for us. We'll keep going for them, and if we get it, then it's a win for everybody.
Yeah, brilliant. Is your accommodation currently focused more on couples, families, individuals? What would your target audience be there?
Damien, do you want to chip in on this one?
I mean, and I guess first
okay.
I'd say there's a group that might be missing, and that's solo travelers. We provide accommodation that suits all three of those groups. I would say, without maybe giving away too much sauce, as I mentioned, we definitely see people that are celebrating. So that tends to happen in couples. You have anniversaries, you have, weddings. Families also celebrate, but we do have it to a point now where, in terms of some of our targeting and some of our advertising, particularly around the scenic rim, we can turn that up pretty well with couples, people in relationships. We've got that down to almost a science, I would say.
Yeah, fantastic. So in terms of opportunities to complement the Wonder Pods, are you thinking of partnering with other businesses or brands in terms of fitting eco and sustainable products so that it could really elevate your earnings and support the growth and maintenance of the pods?
Yes, all the time. We either look for these opportunities, and they also we've found that they're coming to us now. If they're aligned with the brands and it brings in value to the guests, we will look at it.
Similarly, those kinds of businesses that you look to partner with, do you try to do them in the local community that the pods are located in, so that you can further support those local businesses and tradespeople?
Yeah, definitely. And that's part of our supply chain selection criteria. So, okay, it needs to be aligned with values, aligned with, has its own sustainability credentials. Is it made locally? As in, if it's provided in the region, that's the best case scenario. If not, is it from the state? And if not, is it from Australia? We kind of go out that way. Yes, but the more localized it is, the better. Particularly if it's guest facing. So in the general consumables, the stuff that we're doing all the time, the toilet paper, that was my first example that came to my head. They're like national suppliers. So that's how we get some efficiencies in scale there. But some of the really unique touch points that we can provide in each of these pods, they're local.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm not sure if you can share this, but have you secured a lease or any land for the next group of pods?
Yes, can't talk too much about it because we're still under NDA, but we have a few really great site opportunities coming up in multiple states.
And similarly, I'm not sure if you're now allowed to share this at this stage, but can you give an idea of the revenue share percentages for landholders?
Yeah, so as I said, it's different for each, but it's roughly a 10 to 15% share of gross accommodation revenue. So it's just the revenue that we make on the rooms, not on any of the upsells like from farm boxes and whatnot that we receive.
That's super generous. Amazing.
Should I call it back?
No, I think it's an incredible way to give back to the community. I think it really, really highlights the great parts of this business. I think it's fantastic.
So I mean, it's part of like what we're doing to secure that good land. No one's going to give that up easily. So we need to make sure it works for the landowner.
Totally. So at the moment, do you have a projected number of pods that you would like to build over the next 3 years? And how many sites do you have in mind that are either ready to go or that you're looking to achieve, like just as a goal?
So this obviously depends on the amount of capital we're able to raise. I said the more capital that we raise, the more pods I can do. So generally speaking, we'd like to commercialize 2 to 3 locations a year, and average of those being about 5 pods per location.
Terrific. Are you opening this up to landowners to invest in the pods?
Yep. And I've had several phone calls over the past couple of weeks since we've opened this EOI campaign from landowners, from a whole bunch of different people looking to get in. So just because they're an investor doesn't mean we'll do their land necessarily. That commercialize their land, it still needs to fit our criteria. But in saying that, yes, there have been landowners interested.
Fantastic. I've got a few people asking, you're looking to go international in the future. Is that still the case?
Would love to. I mean, there's plenty of work still to do here. I want to go get into Victoria before I go international. But in saying that, we've started to have very early conversations with key markets overseas to just start building those relationships. It's not a decision that we'll make easily. We know it's a big leap, it's hard work, and we want to make sure that our domestic market and product is very stable and secure before we do that.
Yeah, absolutely, fair enough. Out of the 20% of people who were, not giving a 9 or 10 after their stay, what were their top concerns?
Cool. Damien, do you want to handle this one?
Look, there was certainly when we first started out, especially during COVID, we had some growing pains, and we've learnt and we've done quite a lot of improvement. Our version 1 pods in Scenic Rim to version 2 on Kangaroo Island are different. Version 1 does not have a dishwasher, for example. Version 2 does. And that was a big part of the feedback. We've taken a lot of that on board, and we've tried to really improve for the second opening on KI. And that consistent feedback from KI has been going up and up and up and pulling up all of the averages. So we'll keep improving as every time we open a location, we'll keep improving and taking that feedback on board and growing.
Yeah, fantastic. So why did you choose crowdsourced funding for this raise of investment versus, say, a silent partner or angel investor?
I think the main reason is that we're a brand that's built by the community. We wanted to make our most fiercely raving fans part of the success of this. Yes, we can go out to private investment, but we wanted to build a brand that was for people and have you share it in the upside.
Awesome. So how many people work full-time in your HQ at the moment?
Well, there's a core team of about 6 of us, not full-time. There's obviously the gentleman that you have on the screen. We also have a project manager, an architect, and a PR and comms lady. So core team of about 6, but not full-time. I am full-time. Can you get more than full-time? Like
I would expect that, so that's fair. So at the moment, when you're looking to expand your team, what do you look for when you're bringing somebody into the Wanda family? Are you looking at, certain attributes, or whether they're based locally to the pods? What kind of thing are you looking for?
If they're coming into Wanda HQ, it's alignment with the brand. You have to believe in its vision, the heart, soul, guts. It's hard work, and so that's the first and foremost thing. As we expand, we'll be expanding the team too, with a few key hires, making sure that someone is really championing the guest experience, community engagement. It's such a core part of our business. So that needs to have more focus. Also, as we bring on capital, we're looking to accelerate our expansion of pods and locations. Having someone dedicated to site acquisition to look for those sites is a really key hire that we'll see in the short to mid-term.
Brilliant. And what's your average GOP percentage of the properties?
Of the pods, I think we're at 62% across both properties.
Amazing. In terms of, I've just had a question here about exit strategy for investors. Essentially, I'll just pop in for you a little link so you can read a little bit about about returns on investment through equity crowdfunding. So if anybody needs that, I've just popped it in the Q&A box. And do you have any planned sites for WA?
Early conversations, yes. All of our sites are at different level in different states with different levels of development and progress, I guess. WA, there's no secured sites on an individual level yet, but we are having conversations at a broader kind of regional level, mainly in the south.
Fantastic. Well, it doesn't look like we've got any more questions for now. So that being said, if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Cass and the team at Wanda via their virtual profile. And I will also be sending the recording of this around to everybody. So if you feel like you've missed anything and you want to rehash it, please feel free to. But I'd like to say thank you for everybody who's joined today, and thank you, Cass and the team, for your time today. It's been really, really fantastic to learn about Wanda and the community that you're creating, and can't wait to see your offer go live.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, everyone, and thank you, Em.
Thank you so much.